Mitrom and Bandhuvam, welcome to South Asia Maps Intellectual Kshatriya channel, education channel that mostly presents or brings to you the India-centric history and geography heritage related topics. Once a while, I will also post on other topics. Today's the topic of discussion is human ecology, human impasse, human predicament. That is essentially from the work of Dr. William Catton Jr. His two pioneering books, OverShoot and BottleNEck. We will be discussing American Dream and its extensions, a Canadian Dream and Australian Dream. This is ESA represents the American Dream, a Canadian Dream later. Now we see the Australian Dream, especially in the developing countries. A lot of students are coming. Excuse me. We listen these words very broadly, and I would like to talk about them so that you will have a more clear ecological perspective, not the political perspective. That matters most important. New ecological paradigm, not the old political Cornucopian paradigm. So, American Dream, Canadian Dream, Australian Dream. All these dreams, they faltered. Why they faltered? Because they were dependent on phantom carrying capacity. This is the land habitat, excuse me, ability of the land to support the people, that is the number of people or population. It can support indefinitely, that is the carrying capacity, the true carrying capacity, real carrying capacity. Sometimes a land habitat territory can support more people even though it doesn't have resources. I talked about how it is possible doing the drawing down of the resources, that is called phantom carrying capacity, because all the industrial nations and almost all the nations in the world today are running on phantom carrying capacity. That's why these dreams all faltered due to phantom carrying capacity. This visa represents the dream, the American Dream and Canadian Dream and Australian Dream. This is my main YouTube channel, and if you are not aware of it, that is South Asia Maps J. Reddy. There are more than 220 immaculately made presentations on varied topics, and you can go and look at them, and if you like, do subscribe and add comments to the post. And this is about the book I was talking, OverShoot book from Professor Catton William Jr., Professor Emeritus, Washington State University, Pullman, Northwestern Pacific region of United States, east of Cascade Mountains, south of 49th parallel above the equator, the line that separates the United States and Canada. Two pioneering books, OverShoot and BottleNEck. Most of the basic concepts come here, and either icons and the matter presentation creation is my own ideas. This gives the entire presentation. See, there are three countries. Before that, you should have a broader understanding. I talked about elsewhere. You can go to the playlist called Game, Geographic Areas Made Easy. You can look in my YouTube channel and go for the playlist and see. The entire planet Earth is 510 units. That units is million square kilometers. 360 is water, 150 is the land. Year has around about 365 days, you can remember. Nearly half of it is the land mass. Egypt is 1 million square kilometers. You can fit 150 countries in the planet Earth. The important point is the 4 political units on the planet Earth have almost the same geographical land area. United States 10, Canada 10, mainland People's Republic of China 10, European Union, that is Europe west of Ural Mountains in broad 10, 10, 10, 10. This is a broad. You need not go into nitty-gritty. Australia is 30. Africa is 30 million square kilometers. Australia 8. I put it as 8, actually 7.7 something. So this is the broad area thing you have to keep in mind when we talk about the dreams and carrying capacity, phantom carrying capacity. 10, 10, 10, 10. Brazil is nearly 10, that is 8. Australia is nearly 10, that is 8 too, and so on. So United States 10 million square kilometers here, I put it. Canada nearly the same. Australia 7. It has 350 million people here. Canada has around about 40 million. Australia has 28 million. And after the decline in economic opportunities in the United States, visa restrictions, all these things are only discussed outward politically, but the things that are happening are ecological. So I am talking about carrying capacity, phantom carrying capacity. That's very, very important. So after this, these 2 dreams came. So let's go over the dreams. American dream was the word coined and popularized by James Truslow Adams, American historian roundabout before the World War II time. That means essentially a better life, happier life. Everybody has a car, everybody has a job, a pensions, the retirements, home ownership, longevity of the life, especially the affluence, prosperity, high human development index. That means essentially rags to riches for all citizens. That is the American dream. Everybody can live happily and do whatever he or she likes without interfering others, without being interfered by others. That is the original American dream. Why American dream was possible? It was possible by 2 ecological events that are very important. Taking over and drawing down. Taking over, imagine the Europeans coming from Europe, the settlers, they took over the entire continent, 2 Americas, North America, South America, north of Panama Canal, south of Panama Canal. Ecologically, the carrying capacity they enhance. Now, many Europeans, their descendants, children, can live in this land. This taking over of a new habitat, new continent from the existing flora and fauna, the grasslands, the woodland, the forest, the coyotes, wildlife was very easy. That is taking over. Later, European colonizers, descendants met local Red Indians, which they considered dispensable. They defeated them and put them the reservations and took over the entire land, coast to coast, Atlantic to Pacific. They enhanced the carrying capacity for themselves and their descendants. That carrying capacity is a permanent, essentially agricultural type of civilizations. Then, when the oil and minerals and metals were discovered after steam engine invented in Europe, they started digging down the land, looking for the minerals, metals, oil, coal, natural gas. It's called drawing down the temporary resources. That is called, they still enhance the carrying capacity. Higher standard of living, the paving of the road, building of the millions and millions of the, the roadways, tarring them, giving everybody a car and all those things. This is due to drawing down of the temporary resources. It lacks the permanent ecological base. It was temporary. But they tried to prolong it. That didn't happen. But this failure to prolong the carrying capacity is not due to any malfeasance or any malreasons, because they started the military industrial complex. They gave themselves new industrial occupational niches that Americans enjoyed and the new immigrants enjoyed is called American dream. That means essentially before Americans were farming essentially the croplands, very rich farmlands on the planet Earth, Iowa and Nebraska, Kansas, Dakotas and so on. That was the taking over. Now they started farming the oil wells of Alaska and Texas, Oklahoma. That is drawing down. Previously they replaced the farming of the land, Iowa and Nebraska, with industrial agriculture by drawing down fertilizers, urea, pesticides, tractors, combiners, harvesters. That is called farming, industrial farming from Alaska and Texas oil wealth. That means they overloaded the carrying capacity as well as they overloaded the planet. That part of the plan. 1776, there were 3 million people when the America declared independence from Britain. By 76, that is, during the time of Nixon and Ford, Nixon resigned around about 74, then his successor, Vice President Gerald Ford, 76, there were nearly 200 million people. Now, that is in 2022, there are around about 330 million people in America. And these are not ordinary human beings. They are called Homo colossus. Essentially, the Europe was overcrowded land, old world, when their parents, forefathers came in 1500, 1600, 1700s. Now this new world essentially became a old world. That means there is no more empty land, for them to take over or to draw down, enhance the carrying capacity. Then some of the people start looking opportunities in other land, Canada and Australia. These are the vast empty lands, but they lack the carrying capacity. Here I put in the green color around about 100 kilometers or so. This is called 49th parallel, north of the equator, an imaginary line that separates most of the United States south, Canada north. Only 100 kilometers border. Almost 90% of Canadians, 95% live within the 100 kilometers border from United States. Most of the land is Canadian Shield, Arctic land. It is not suitable for humans to live. That means it has no carrying capacity. It's an empty land, low pressure land, no pressure land, unpressured land, but has no carrying capacity beyond that. That's why the Canadian dream is not possible, even though Canada is exactly or even little more area than the United States. Same thing in Australia, which is almost 80% of Canada or United States. 95% of the people live from Brisbane on this side, called dividing range. Rest of the land is a desert, is not habitable. So empty land has a no carrying capacity, like Brisbane, the Perth, and Sydney and Canberra and Victoria and all those areas, New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland, to certain extent Adelaide region. There is a Perth, Western Australia. So 95% of people live here. That is the Australian dream. Australian dream has failed because it doesn't have much carrying capacity, and essentially all these lands are running on phantom carrying capacity. Still the people are thinking there is something there, they're aspiring to go there and get the student visas, employment visas. And this country is now restricted immigration that people think is a political region, right or wrong. But behind the scene, what is happening in the ecological region? There is no carrying capacity surplus in any of these countries. American dream, Canadian dream, Australian dream survived temporarily on phantom carrying capacity. They faltered on the carrying capacity issue. That is the main thing you have to keep in mind. I talked about the American dream before in detail. You can look at it, part 17. This is the part 18. That is the American dream, Canadian dream, Australian dream. All these dreams falter due to phantom carrying capacity. Phantom carrying capacity is based upon the temporary drawdown of the resources I discussed elsewhere. That is essentially, entire planet Earth, 510 units, that is million square kilometers, 360 is water bodies, and 150 is the land. Egypt is exactly 1 million square kilometers. You can fit 150 countries. 3 countries, United States, or 4 countries, Canada, and almost the entire Western Europe, west of Ural Mountains, and mainland China. There are 10 million square kilometers. Australia is 8, and Brazil is also exactly 8. That's the things you have to keep in mind. Australian dream is not really great because the phantom carrying capacity is very less. Even phantom carrying capacity, the land, even though humongous land mass, the new world, 95% of people live in this area east of dividing mountain ranges. That is habitable. The Canadian dream also fails because 90% of the people live across this line, 49th parallel. The entire land, Canadian Shield, Arctic, Canada is uninhabitable. That is today's discussion about American dream, Canadian dream, Australian dream in ecological perspective. Why these latter 2 dreams as a subalterns or derivatives of American dreams means when American dreams collapse, people start realizing, they start coining Canadian dream and Australian dream. But all these dreams, they falter because they're running on phantom carrying capacity by drawing down the temporary resources which cannot support the new population or existing domiciles, residents in these lands. That is very important. We need to know. And this is your presenter, Dr. J. Reddy at South Asia Maps, brought this topic as a part of the YouTube channel playlist under Human Ecology, Human Impasse, Human BottleNEck, Human OverShoot, Human Predicament. See you later in other presentation.